4th was the lowest in recorded NASA satellite history. The last 3 months of 2025 were by far the warmest winter period on record. And calendar year 2025 ended up as the 4th warmest on record for Colorado, behind only 2012, 2017, and 1934. December 2025 was also the warmest ever on record, with over 1,000 daily high temperature records set across the state, according to the Colorado Climate Center. The latest report called it, quote, exceptional, record smashing, disturbingly warm, unquote. All 5 states in the Intermountain West region had their warmest Decembers on record. Just over halfway through January, Denver's already broken one daily record for the highest temperature. On January 4th, models forecast above normal temperatures for the next 3 months, which is likely to continue impacting our snowpack. Peter Gubel, assistant state climatologist with the Colorado Climate Center at CSU, said this magnitude of snow deficits is unlikely to be made up for with more rain in the coming months. He warned of potential spring and summer fire risk, saying, historically, most of our worst fire seasons are following very poor snowpack years. That's all I have for tonight, but let's pray for snow.
Yeah, that's a good item. Along those lines, I think we're looking to a future work session to talk about the mitigation proposals that we are putting together with the Aspen Fire District. And the city is looking at its tree ordinance to try to come back with something that differentiates between tree removal for maximum development versus tree removal for human and family safety in their homes. And so we're going to try to stay a Tree City USA, but not be a Fuel City USA. Okay, any other board comments? I guess I would make a mayor's comment. I think we've all seen some pretty disturbing videos of what's happening nationally related to ICE enforcement. And I think that there's often been general agreement that people in this country should be here legally and the borders should not be overrun. But we've reached a point where it seems to be endangering our citizens in this effort, and we're seeing potentially civil rights of individuals violated. I can only think how I would feel if I saw some of this happening on my streets in this town. And I just urge people to call and talk to their elected representatives at the state and federal level and let them know what your concerns are. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you. We now would move on to any agenda amendments.
No, Mayor.
No today. City manager's comments.
Nothing good for the group.
Okay, good for you. Thank you. We would now go to board reports. Where would we like to start? Sam, you ready?
Yeah, Board of Health update. The Board of Health recommended a flavor ban in Pickens County for tobacco products, like we already have in the city.
Nice.
And then just the 2 other things. Epidemiology update from Carly Sense was the flu season is severe and driven primarily by flu A. Some of you might have experienced it, and it's been linked to some hospitalizations, and vaccinations still recommended. Measles elimination status is at risk amid ongoing outbreaks, but Colorado has maintained its childhood vaccination recommendations by aligning with the American Academy of Pediatrics. So at least Colorado is still online with that sort of recommendation. And that's all for Board of Health.
Thanks for attending for us, Sam. We appreciate that. Anything today, Bill? I think so. No, not a RAFTA. This side of the table?
Yes, I attended a CML policy meeting. We discussed, it was actually pretty short. We discussed quite a few things like distilleries and sales rooms proposing to go from 2 to 5 without having the ability to franchise up to 2 to 5 locations without a real food menu. That was opposed 60 to 2. There were internet gaming was talked about, which we've discussed at length. Marijuana temporary hospitality events, which also goes hand in hand with THC beverages and how that's going to be administered. they're going to be allowed in liquor stores or grocery stores or bars, and how that's, that seems like it's going to take some time. Then there was talk about statutory lodging tax, which we already have. Discussion about pensions, and at the end of the meeting, they said we will have much more to discuss next month and the month afterwards. Also had an APCHA meeting. There are some Cypress Creek cabins available. We also talked about transparency and better understanding and awareness in our program. Had a data report on our total units, 3,140 with 1,446 rentals, 1,694 ownership units. Last year, 1,308 applications were processed, or were approved actually. Only 251 denied. Average was 37 bids per unit, mostly Category 4, then Category 3. Average work history down from 16 to 13 years, and average household size is 1.5 people. There has been a dramatic change since removal of the $5 filing fee, which led to some consequences that were slowing the program down. So that makes it easier for people to do. We're also working on the dashboard overview, has all the main requirements listed, including hours per year, that you have to live in Pickens County, that you can't have any other property in the owner exclusion zone, which is the greater Roaring Fork Valley. We went over the average sale of all units and sale prices. Compliance actions, we went into 927 actions taken, 16 forced sales, and 121 random audits. There also is now on the website a map of all APCHA properties, which you can click on them, and you can spend hours on this thing. You can click on different categories, which has number of units, and we're working on the grant program update. Also talked about the grant repair program, and that grant application program is open for anybody listening. In 2025, 78 of 84 repairs via grants have been completed. We also did talk about a point which came up a couple meetings ago about forming some language to try and preclude convicted criminals from occupying any of our units. So that's still needs to be worked on. I think Tom Smith is the one who is going to come back with those, with the path forward.
That sounds like a tough one if people have served their sentence and completed their punishment for whatever that crime is, and you would be continuing to punish them. So I think that's a real careful one to make sure we're not dealing with civil rights issues and can see something that doesn't just create lawsuits.
Right. Well, this was in response to a specific
I
issue.
understand. And it may be if it's down to that sort of specific issue,
Right.
as opposed to more general level of crime. Any other, would you like to add anything?
No.
Okay, thanks. I have just a few boards to report. I was down in Denver January 15th and 16th for a mayor's summit that the Colorado Municipal League was hosting. A lot of discussion about leadership, ethics, manager and mayor relationships, and strategic planning, how to keep things moving. So that was really good to meet my peers and hear from other communities and look at other examples. One of the things I've mentioned to Pete, but I am not going to throw it on our agenda for this year because we already are asking a lot from our staff, but that some cities do a State of the City address once a year and involve all the departments and kind of make it a humorous community event, but where is the city at? What is the state of the city? And so I think that's something we could consider moving forward in the future, and some other innovations. Just this morning, we had the ACRA board meeting for the month, and I am the city's rep for that. APCHA is continuing to sort through and make sure they can give valid information to people about the airport improvements. And there's a lot of work going on in the background, but they don't have, oh, it's going to be like this or it's going to be like that, you know, in terms of alternate transportation and what the airlines are doing in terms of bumping flights to other airports and things like this. So It was stressed by many that, the sooner more information can come aboard, the better, and that the community is looking for that as people plan. And one of the real challenges here seems to be that everyone knows the airport was going to close for its required rebuild the summer of '27. But what we don't know is people were thinking, and this quote comes from one of the other board members, that people were thinking they could really save up a nest egg this winter to get through what may be reduced business when the airport is closed. But the snow has been so frustrating that it might really be 2 hard years in a row. And so we all need to keep that in mind with some of our ambitions. The other thing to just simply mention is that the legislative session has started, and that will see well over 500, maybe 600 bills introduced. Many of them die, some of them pass. We do have a lobbyist who keeps us informed on these matters, and I try to work through Colorado Municipal League and other activities. There is a Colorado Municipal League legislative workshop coming up on February 19th. If anyone would care to go to Denver to participate that, learn more about lobbying and what the big issues are at this point in time. The other item to mention is that both John and I will be going to the Colorado Association of Ski Towns meeting the end of this week, the 29th to the 30th, over in Salida. Now, we're all wondering why they couldn't pick Salida in the summer, but we're going to go anyhow. And the other thing I really would like to point out is that tomorrow at the Gondola Plaza, starting at about 4 o'clock, is going to be our community and our valley's send-off to the young Olympians who are going on to the Olympics from here. And I think everyone who can turn out and show up and clap for these people, I think they're going to have in attendance a number of our significant past winners, past Olympians there as well. This valley, in its athletic pursuits and its good community, has really sent a lot of people all the way to the top. So we're going to be wishing them well, and please show up at 4 o'clock at Gondola Plaza. I think they're starting roughly around 4:15, but 4 o'clock to be sure. Thank you very much for that. I also wanted to take a moment, and I apologize. I know people are here to get to other meaty items, but there was a kind of conclusion meeting of the 21st Century Transportation Committee last week on Thursday. And I want to really clarify a couple of things. One is that there were edits made at that meeting to what was formerly called a final report, but now is going to be called Phase 1 Findings and Next Steps, because it's very obvious that the conclusions are incomplete without the Down Valley communities really weighing in to really understanding, are they moving forward transportation demand management measures as well? What does congestion mean to them? Is it important enough to try to deal with? And so it's not just the Upper Valley trying to force solutions on others. The other aspect is the, quote, conclusions of the first set, the first phase, and that would be that overall, we've gone through all the carrots there are to get people off of their cars, out of their cars. And we have some sticks in Aspen, but there's a point at which we have to ask all of ourselves, what does congestion mean to us? And how much are we willing to step forward and support proposals that try to limit that as well, both for our quality of life in the downtown core, throughout our neighborhoods, as well as the entrance in Main Street. It's not just about the entrance. I've said it before, I'll say it again, but for a number of longtime friends who told me that they could not vote for Ref 2 as much as they wanted a bridge and things like that, it was because they were afraid that congestion would just be moved further into the core. And how do you deal with congestion? And so we all have to think about ways that we don't just wish it away, but what are we willing to do and what are we willing to accept? So there's a very long process before anything really moves forward. RAFTA did participate fully in the fare-free experiment, and that is, quote, one of the potential benefits of a fee that would be generated from congestion pricing or from hot lanes. But RAFTA is very clear, just from the experiment with fare free, and if the goal of reducing incoming traffic to Aspen of about 2,500 cars a day was to be achieved, RAFTA felt most of those would probably be on RAFTA, not in a new shared carpool. And they would need about 25% more drivers than they have now, 25% more buses than they have now. Buses take 2 years to order online at about $1.2 million or $3 million each. They would need more housing for more drivers to be able to do that. They would need more maintenance facilities. They would need a lot of time to ramp it up. And the example given was that bus rapid transit, which is highly effective, literally took them 10 years to fully stand up from when they first received the grants. So I just wanted to kind of put it out there that there's not any toll roads coming anytime soon. There's not any congestion pricing coming anytime soon. There is a lot of work to be done for all of us to say, how much of a problem is it? Is it just the entrance? Is it the core? Is it our neighborhoods? Is it the air quality? What is it that we want to accomplish going forward? Because as several ACRA members pointed out this morning, there's some really large new housing developments in the Mid-Valley coming up. And our transportation problems of today might be a lot less than they will be another 10 years from now. So we have to look forward. Going from there, let's see. Our next item is the consent calendar. That concluded board reports. Nobody else has anything else? Okay. And we're going to pull just a few of these items from the consent calendar and then see if there's one to go forward with all. So I will read all of them, then tell you which ones we're going to pull, and then we'll take them individually as a board. We have on the consent calendar Resolution 005, Series of 26, City of Aspen 2026 Regional, State, Federal Policy Agenda. We have a single policy agenda so that we can write letters or respond to issues as they come up without having to convene a full board meeting. The next item is Resolution number 017, Series of 2026. That's the contract with Zipcar. That is our car share program, and it's just continuing that program and renewing it. Resolution 018 and 019, the old Powerhouse preservation contract for construction services and contingency. That project is continuing, and we are moving that forward. Resolution 020, Series of 2026, the APCHA contract with Salesforce, and we have received a substitute contract on that with the amended agenda than the one that was originally out there, but that's all correct. And then the final item, or two final items, are the board and commission selections and the draft minutes of January 13th meeting 2026. I will personally pull to start the process Resolution 005, Series of 26, the regional, state, and federal policy agenda amendments. I had a very small cleanup on transportation, which I've put a copy in front of all of you on your desk for when we get to that one. This is, in some levels, in response to the ballot initiative going forward to eliminate transportation funding in Colorado and move any funding that supports bus tang or RAFTA or any mass transit into roads only. And it's being pushed by the Colorado Contractors Association. Communities like ours and other resort communities are highly dependent on transit and transit funding within the Colorado Department of Transportation, and we do not want to see it return to be a Department of Highways. The other item we will be pulling is the boards and commission selections so that council members can be able to vote on those individually. We had a lot of concurrence on the majority of the issues or the candidates, but there's always different opinions in a 5-person board, and we will allow us to vote individually on those. So I would request a motion to approve only items Resolution 017, contract with Zipcar, Resolution 18 and 19, the old Powerhouse preservation contract, And Resolution 20, Series of 2026, APCHA contract with Salesforce, and the draft minutes from January 13th.
I'd be glad to make that motion, but can I offer one point of clarification?
Yes, please.
First? On Resolution 17, the Zipcar contract?
Yes.
You mentioned that that's a renewal of an existing
No,
program.
you're right.
Which it's not. It's a new program, and the only comment that I wanted to make on that is a commendation to the city for not trying to do everything ourselves and leveraging sort of people who excel at doing something specific and something niche. And I'm glad to see this go in that direction. I think it'll be a better service for the users. I think it's better technology. I think it's less staff resources that need to go into managing it. And so just wanted to give my kudos on that.
Yeah, no, and thank you for the correction. I meant to say continuation, but improvement of the program. Thank
So
you.
I'll move to approve Resolution 17, Resolution 18, Resolution 19, Resolution 20, and the draft minutes of January 13th.
Great. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Nicole, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much. And let's see, here we go. For the next item, which is the policy resolution, we'll go to the top one first. I have handed out and would like to make an amendment to the policy resolution under transportation, which is totally my fault, not Tara, my staff, but to simplify the language under transportation so that it would, and this is the language in red in our packets, oppose state of Colorado transportation funds being diverted to only fund roads, period. And the second support the continued use of transportation funds for mass transit and transportation demand management purposes. So it's basically just saying, let's keep it the way it is. Is that sufficient amendment language that others would accept that?
Would you mind doing that one more time, Rachel? Now that I have it in front of me.
Okay. The first cleanup was mostly I wanted to drop any mention of TDMs from the first bullet point. If you're on that item in red now. So the first bullet point under transportation there that we are adding would say, oppose state of Colorado transportation funds being diverted to only fund roads. So it's not taking any highway money away, but it's saying don't take away our transportation funding.
Mayor, City Council members.
Elections.
Pardon me?
Down.
Just one point of
There it is.
clarification.
Yeah, please, Tara.
Tara Nelson, City of Aspen Attorney's Office. I just want to say, like, in the first paragraph at the very end, we do say we support new transportation funding for, and when you start that with an opposition, it could be,
Oh, okay, I didn't
Right.
have the full packet. I just said,
yeah.
if we need to clean that up further, we will, but I think it's important to start having a position on not losing transportation funding. So we might be able to make a little bit of Scribner cleanup after the fact on the introduction to it.
Make it a positive versus
Make it positive.
Starts with oppose,
Okay.
and then we talk about.
And then the second would be support the continued use of transportation funds for mass transit and transportation demand management, TDM purposes. So
Continued.
continue, yeah. Something like our downtowner is a transportation demand management program or the weed cycle or anything else. Bill?
I'm totally fine with your second proposal. The first one, I'm concerned, if we're looking at this on an individual basis, if there's a project that really doesn't warrant a component that's a transportation or a TDM, that doesn't warrant one of those efforts.
Yeah.
It's an improvement to an
No,
existing road
I
or something
think I
like
got
that.
you. Currently, in the state constitution, all gasoline taxes must be used for roads only. So this isn't taking anything away from roads, but there are some funds that have been dedicated to mass transit. And the highway proponents are trying, through a ballot measure this November, to take all transportation money and put it in roads only. And unfortunately, with 80% or more of the population living on the Front Range, most of the money is going to go to the overcrowded highways on the Front Range, not to the transportation needs of a community like ours.
Yeah, I'm okay with where you're coming from here. I just want to be sure that we're not forcing ourselves to oppose something that doesn't need to be opposed. I mean, I would oppose what you're talking about. I wouldn't oppose a very specific project that only had a road component and not a TDM or a transportation component.
This is why I cleaned up the very first bullet point to take that out. And the sheet next to you, Bill, is the new language.
Yeah.
So I took out any TDM related to that first bullet point.
But maybe we could add something being diverted to only fund roads that previously included a TDM or transportation component or something along those lines, because
That starts to get a little beyond the general philosophical point of not supporting this ballot question going forward.
well, then maybe we should talk specifically about the ballot question, which I'm fine with. But I just,
Does the
you know,
rest of the council want to postpone this issue again for another 2 weeks? We could do that if we want to work on this language further. But does anybody else have objections as well?
does it make sense to everyone where I'm coming from on this? Like, I'm fine with the notion of what Rachel's talking about. I don't like the proposed ballot question that Rachel's talking about for all the same reasons. But I also don't want us to be involved in opposing a project because we've put it in this policy agenda.
No, we're not, we're talking about just the transportation funds. We're not talking about anybody's individual project. And we're not going to weigh in on other people's projects that might not have any TDM. We're focused on our valley and our community and the other resorts that have mass transit.
Tara, do you think the language captures that sentiment?
I
that
could
Rachel
just
did?
add, if you want to transpose some of the language, you can at the table, but if you want to talk about the specific bill, you can put that in. This is a working document, so if it is just something that's for this agenda, next year, it may not be a bullet point, but if it is something specific to Bill's point and to what you're hoping to include, you can quilt that together to put that specific language bill in and make it be to the effect that you'd like, but also include that specific bill. Just a suggestion.
So do we need to table it, Bill? This is what I'm asking. Because we're doing policy stuff as it fits right now.
If
I
that
think
works
I
for
know
you.
what you're saying, and we're not going to go out and oppose other people's projects because they don't have a TDM.
I'm fine with it where it sits within the larger document and the bullet point, the point it's trying to make.
It's fine.
Okay.
Same.
Okay, well, again, I'm just trying to move this on, and I appreciate the comments. We're searching for clarity. I would make a motion to approve Resolution 005, the City of Aspen 2026 Regional State Federal Policy, with the amendments in the packet and a further amendment on the transportation.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. Will you call the roll, please, Nicole?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's support on that. Now we'll go to the boards and commission selections. And thank you, Tara, for your assistance with that. I am going to propose the slate that seemed to have general consensus as we did interviews and discuss those. If anyone objects or wants to modify that, please let me know, or if I miss one. Sam's always good at keeping me on track. I would propose that the City of Aspen appoint to the Commercial Core and Lodging Commission Angie Wang, Amanda Tanaka, and Jed Ball. That we appoint to the Historic Preservation Commission Barb Pitchford. That we appoint to the Board of Adjustments Jennifer Fulton. That we appoint to the Grants Committee Judy Clausen. Is there a second to my motion?
Couple things there,
Okay,
if I could.
Yeah.
You said Jed Ball on CCLC. He did not apply. It was Judd Clarence
Okay.
who applied, number one.
okay, thank you for that. Jed Clarence.
Judd.
Judd,
Everyone in agreement on that? Okay.
yes.
I know the name. I think Jed used to be on CCLC when I was
Yeah.
on it, so.
And I apologize. I kind of thought a resolution was going to be put up after we discussed it last night, and instead it's just my footnotes. So please help out, Bill.
And then, is it possible that we do P and Z separately also? I'm sorry.
We are. I didn't include them in the motion,
Okay, thank you so
and
much.
I did not include APCHA or Wheeler, so,
Okay, so that was HPC, Grants, CCLC, and Board of Adjustments, those four?
correct.
All right, great. So As amended to include Judd Clarence,
Yes,
I second that motion that you just proposed.
as amended. Thank you for the name correction. Nicole, will you call the roll?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yeah, yes. We now have one seat on the Wheeler Board, and I would make a motion to approve Tom Kurt, Dr. Kurt, for reappointment to that board.
I'll second.
And there's a second.
Can I
Now
offer
discussion.
a little discussion?
Discussion,
on this one?
yes.
Talked about this last night, and I continue to think about it. And I am really concerned that we are sending a message to our community that if there's a popular board like the Wheeler, where people often seek reappointment, don't even bother applying. And I think that's super discouraging, and it's not respectful to sort of newer members of our community who want to be involved. And again, deeply grateful to Tom for his long service on the board, but I think it's our responsibility to bring new involvement into these boards. It's only fair to adequately represent our community with sort of a change in members and composition of these boards. So I ask you all to reconsider that. I think we are so fortunate to have wonderful people applying for it. I have nothing against Tom, and I'm deeply grateful for his service. But I do think it's our responsibility to turn over members of these boards and provide fresh perspectives. And this precedent that's been set that people are automatically reappointed is bad for our community and not representative of the entire population.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's a relatively common occurrence. I'm not sure it's precedent. I've seen it broken before. I would mention that Sam had brought up the idea that maybe we should talk about amending the code for that board and have some term limits. I think that would be a great topic for our board retreat to come up in the springtime. The other thing I had suggested is that the Wheeler board itself start to reach out to some of these people and not quite form an advisory committee, but informally really start to involve them in a way that makes their interest heard and meaningful, and can look forward to it in the future. Other than that, I'm not going to say anything. I think those were some areas we all seem to agree on. Is there any other? No, but I do think we all share your interest, and it's a brave thing to put it out there. Appreciate that. Will you call the roll, please, Nicole?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
No.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Yeah, it is the balance of new blood versus rewarding hard work and commitment. The next board would be the Planning and Zoning Commission. I would make a motion to approve, pardon my pronunciation, Teresia. Some words I have a hard time. Teresia McGovern. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Is there discussion at the table? No. Okay, Nicole, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
No.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes, thank you. For the Wheeler Board, excuse me, that was on the wrong note at the top. For the APCHA Board, the council would like to, or I will make a motion to appoint Peter Grenny and recommend to the county that they take Jacqueline Matthews as the alternate going forward. Is there a motion, a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. I will not be voting for this motion. I have been very concerned with individuals who seem more interested in how we move people out of our community than getting them in terms of retirement in the units and turnover of the units. And I think that there is a more balanced approach who supports a community living and breathing with seniors and children. Jacqueline Matthews would have been my first choice for the APCHA board. I'm very happy to see her go forward as a request to the county for consideration for the alternate position. And I think there were other candidates that other people had wanted as well. But it's not a personal thing. We all have different opinions about how people rule on issues. So Nicole, was there a second to that motion?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Nicole, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
No. Thank you very much. And that takes up the whole consent calendar. Thank you for your patience. We have no notice of call-up, and we do have a first reading of ordinances. And that first item is 504 West Hallam Street to establish 2 transferable development rights certificates.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Dan Folk, Planning Director for the city. Let me share my screen here. I've got a
While Dan's doing that,
brief presentation.
Yeah.
I over-disclose up here, but I'll continue to do that. Sarah Adams and I have been working together recently. She's been a land planner for some efforts that I'm working on. I don't think that affects my ability to make a decision on this. Nothing to do with this project.
I understand it's not to do with this project, but, sorry.
Yeah, please.
I think that's fine. I don't think that presents a direct conflict of interest. Thank you for disclosing that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It is a small town. Thank you. We'll hear this and go forward. Thank
All
you.
right, great. Like I said, I have a brief presentation. This is the first reading of an ordinance to award or approve some transferable development rights certificates. And with me tonight is Sarah Adams. She's representing the applicant, and so she'll answer any questions about the project if you have those. See if this advances. There we go. So here's a location map. This is a historic home located at the corner of Hallam and 4th Street, the northwest corner there. Here's a photograph of the home from kind of an elevated street view. And so back in September, the Historic Preservation Commission approved a number of things, a conceptual major development plan for an addition, as well as some removal of non-historic pieces of the home, relocation so that they could do some repair, I think, on the foundation, do some excavation and align the home a little differently with the side property line. I believe there was a variation on a side setback, and then a transferable development right recommendation for 2 certificates. And so the Historic Preservation Commission approved all of these. It came to council, I believe, in October as a call-up, and so you saw this and took no action. And so tonight, we're just here for the TDR certificates.
Okay.
Here's a rendering of the approved project. So you see the historic cottage there in the front, and then a 1-story addition on the rear. So here's a summary of the request. In terms of the property, the allowable floor area is 3,240 square feet. With the new project, it'll go up to, the built floor area will be 2,458 square feet, which leaves 782. And these certificates are issued in increments of 250 square feet. So 2 certificates would remove 500 square feet from the property, leaving 282 square feet of development. Staff found that it does meet the criteria in chapter 26.535. We'll go over those criteria in more detail at second reading. And then again, the Historic Preservation Commission did recommend approval of the 2 certificates back at their meeting in September. And we've got the resolution in your packet tonight. And so that's really all we have for this evening. We're here to answer any questions you might have. We've got a potential motion here, which is to, if you're ready, set the second reading for February 24th. And at that time, we'll provide a little more information in detail.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Council members, questions on this item or comments? No? Okay. I actually do have some questions more for second reading. I noticed in the application, it said that they may come back later to ask for a floor area bonus. And maybe this is a process question overall, but it seems like there really should be only one bite of the apple. I don't like the idea that, oh, we're going to give you TDRs to move off growth, and then you might add more growth over here. And so I think it's, I mean, this is what we're living with now, so I can go with it. But it's ridiculous to say this is the design, but by the way, we might ask for more floor area bonus, and we might want to sell those for TDRs. I'd like to know approximately how much square footage over time we've pushed into other neighborhoods. And it's made me very curious as to how much new excess floor area we feel are there in historic residences that will become TDRs to another neighborhood in the future. You know, I think there's just an equity question here. Some of that is being used in the West End, some of it is being pushed over to the East End of town where this was a county annexation. These are not grid pattern streets, they're not wide streets, they're very small lot lines. And it just starts to become, is this the only tool we have for historic preservation? And I have real concerns about saying somebody else's neighborhood can get trashed, so this neighborhood can get better or more historic. And I mean, I really appreciate that, but it seems that when someone buys a historic home in this community at the price ranges we're seeing now, they know they're going to have to pay a lot to restore that building. I don't know why we're propping up the sales price perhaps artificially by saying, hey, you'll go into the city council and you'll get a couple $1 million worth of TDRs to sell. You know, this is not an effective process to me. And so I think that in the future, perhaps we could have a work session with HPC and talk about some of these things. But it seems, again, and maybe it's because we've had a few in a row, that it really strikes me about where do they land and what are the rules for landing these TDRs? Can one house land 2,000 square feet on their existing zoning? Or is there a limit? Can they only do 1 or 2 or something like that? I just think we need to make sure that this tool is not detrimental to other neighborhoods. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, and so, yeah, at the last one that we did last month, I think you had some similar questions about the program. And so the only reason we haven't issued the informational memo yet is we're working on mapping it. And so I think we'll have that done, I think, by second reading, if you set it for the end of February. And so we're going to map sending sites and receiving sites. And so you'll be able to see where they have landed. And as I shared previously, we've issued 120 certificates at 38 different properties. And so we'll map those, and then the policy discussion, I think we're prepared to have that. We've had a lot of internal discussions about getting floor area bonuses and then doing TDR certificates. And I believe, and Ben can speak to this, but it's just been the practice as an incentive that we've allowed both. But certainly councils can change that policy when you choose, but it does sound like a work session discussion.
Yeah, I'm only one of 5, and, you know, maybe the question is how many TDRs can one site send or be available for their assistance. So that was just my general comment. John?
Yeah, Rachel, I just want to say how much I appreciate your comments. I think this program was designed to help save historic structures, but now we're dealing with some unintended consequences.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. This is the first reading. Is there a motion to read the ordinance?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thanks. Been moved and seconded. Nicole, if you will read, please.
Counselor Benedetti.
Oh, this is the
We
motion
need a
to
roll
read.
call.
We need a roll call vote.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Counselor Doyle.
Yes.
It's okay. Counselor Guth.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Mayor Richards.
Yes.
Ordinance number 4, series of 2026, an ordinance of the City of Aspen City Council approving the establishment of transferable development rights certificates for the property located at 504 West Hallam Street, legally described as lots R and S, Block 28, City and Townside of Aspen, County of Pitkin, State of Colorado.
Thank you.
Rachel?
Yes.
Excuse me. I'll make a motion in just a moment if you're ready for it, but I wanted to make a couple of comments. One is, I do think that this is a great project, and I've reviewed it carefully, and I think it really reflects the spirit of historic preservation in Aspen. Secondly, in response to some of the comments that you and John just made, there may be some unintended consequences of this policy, but there's also excellent intended consequences of this policy that I think, in my personal opinion, very much outweigh the unintended consequences. I think we have preserved the overwhelming majority of structures that fall into the time period that we're trying to capture in a way that almost no other community in this country has. I mean, the quantity, the caliber, the concentration into one neighborhood. Ben and Dan might know better than me, but I don't think there's another community in America that has this type of examples and this type of excellent preservation outcomes. So it's worked, and it's worked really, really well, and I don't think we should lose sight of that.
Okay.
And,
Thank you.
If you're ready for a motion, I'm happy to make one.
Yeah. I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll move to approve Ordinance 4, Series of 26 on first reading and set the public hearing for second reading on February 24th, 2026.
Seconded.
Okay. Is there anything else you needed from us on this?
Nope, that's
Okay, I
it.
didn't think so. Nicole, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much. We are now up to ordinance number 5, series of 2026, the 845 Meadows Road, the Aspen Meadows Affordable Housing Project. I'm going to suggest we take a 4 or 5 minute quick break while they set up, and we will dive right into it. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. We have now returned from a short break. This is the regular meeting of the Aspen City Council on Tuesday night, January 27th. We are about to hear the presentation on 845 Meadows Road, the Aspen Meadows Affordable Housing Project. Please. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Richards. I am Jeffrey Barnhill, City Planner for the City of Aspen. Today we're going to talk about first reading for Ordinance 5, Series of 2026. This is for the Aspen Meadows Affordable Housing Proposal. Here's a quick overview of the site. It is part of the Aspen Meadows Plan Development. You can see the proposed project locations in the picture. That left side of the screen in the purplish blue is the Aspen Institute parcel. The parcel in the middle in the orange is the Aspen Center for Physics, and the parcel outlined in green on the right side is the Aspen Music Festival and School parcel. These parcels are located within the Academic Zone District, with pieces of the properties within the open space, some in wildlife preservation, with a PD overlay.
Hey, Jeffrey?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I realized I should stop you first. I wanted us all to have an opportunity to say briefly, as people feel appropriate, that I'll start. I've been to Aspen Institute programs, I've been to music festival programs, and I've heard a physics lecture or two in my day as a 48-year-old resident. And this is a small town, and so I know a great number of the people pretty well who have written letters to the editor or to us as a community for public comment. I am going to look at this independently and on the merits and bring my questions forward. So if anyone else has issues they would like to bring forward, just to clear the record that this is what's going on. It is a small town where we all have those connections. The second thing I would like to mention is that I am going to request that we have a site visit before we go further with a second reading. Thank you. Do you have any?
Connections.
Yeah, go ahead and speak in the mic so that we are on the record.
I share the same connections.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Okay.
Yeah, attended events at all institutions, advocated for Ideas Fest passes recently, rented my condo one summer to the Center for Physics, attended the open house on the subject a summer or two ago. Can't remember.
Thank you. I just think it's good to get this all out there. John?
While we're at it, my wife and my daughter live in a house just off of the diagram there. I used to walk my dog through this campus the full 16 years he was alive. I, like Rachel, have attended events at all three of these places, and this part of town's really dear to me.
Okay. Thank you.
Similarly, have attended events. I cover all of these organizations as a journalist for our magazine as well. I previously did work for the Aspen Institute, but that was more than a decade ago, so I feel comfortable in my decision-making up here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please continue, Jeffrey.
Excellent, thanks so much.
I do just want to say that,
yes.
talk to some of you about, about potential conflicts of interest. I don't think anybody has said anything here or disclosed anything here that would raise to the level of qualifying for a conflict of interest in our municipal code. So I just wanted to make that record as well. I also just would note that the packet you have before you included public comment received up through January 20th. My understanding is you've continued to receive public comment through the public comment website, and that you all have received those public comments and have reviewed those public comments. To the extent they're not in the packet, because they were received after January 21st, does not mean that they were not made available to you. So
Absolutely. And when people send them kind of just to me, Mayor, I send them straight to Ben and for the public comment packet, and most are sent through public comment to City Council, but we try to make sure those are also directed to Planning and Zoning directly in ComDev. So thank you for
And
that.
I did receive those emails from you and Ben, yes.
Yeah, this afternoon.
And just to be clear, at first reading, there is no requirement that you hold public comment. Any public comment we receive will be included in the record, at least up till publication for the public comment hearing, which will occur if council passes this at first reading. So just for some process context.
Thank you for that, Kate. Appreciate it. All right, Jeffrey, now you can proceed.
Perfect. All right, so now that we've discussed the site as a whole, we're going to get down into each individual sort of aspect of the joint application before us. So the Aspen Institute proposes 13 units consisting of 2 one-bedroom units, 9 two-bedroom units, and 2 three-bedroom units. These will provide 26 bedrooms and 29.75 FTEs. The gross square footage of the development will equal 22,911 square feet of space. Of that, 15,535 square feet is attributed to the housing units, while 7,376 square feet is attributed to 223 square feet of residential space and 655 square feet of non-unit space. Additionally, the development will provide 29 parking spaces with 13 parking spaces for the housing units and 16 parking spaces for the essential public facility. The entire parcel consists of 124 parking spaces with 119 in the garage and 5 at grade on site. Here's a couple renderings of the proposed project for the Aspen Institute.
Can you tell us what the essential public facility is actually, as opposed to what it, that sounds like a category it falls under, but what is it?
So that space is for some rearrangements to some of their office space on site that they're rearranging to make better for the workers there.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to the Aspen Music Festival and School. They propose 13 units consisting of 2 studio units, 8 one-bedroom units, 2 two-bedroom units, and 1 three-bedroom unit. These units will provide 17 bedrooms and 24 FTEs. This includes 13,272 square feet of floor area spread out over 9 new structures on the site. As mentioned in the packet, the original design had 4 multifamily style structures. The redesign features 9 structures that have a more single-family look and feel to blend more seamlessly into the West End neighborhood. You can see those on the right in relation to the parking area. And then here are some renderings of those proposed structures as well. The Aspen Center for Physics proposes 34 units consisting of 11 studio units, 6 one-bedroom units, 8 two-bedroom units, 8 three-bedroom units, and 1 six-bedroom shared dorm-style unit. These units will provide 63 bedrooms and 72.75 FTEs. This includes some 31,567 square feet of residential area, and this area will be spread out over 8 new structures on the site. There will be 3 single-family style units to the south containing 1 studio and 1 three-bedroom unit, and 5 multifamily style structures to the north behind Stranahan Hall containing the remaining units. So this picture to the right shows those 3 proposed residences right here. And then this shows the additional structures to the north of that.
With driveways into those, is that what
So
that's showing?
there's no driveways. This would be sidewalks to get to those structures.
Okay, thank you.
And then this just shows a general outlook of the site. And then here's some renderings. This is the proposed style for building 1. This next photo is for buildings 2 through 4. The one on the lower left is for building 5. And then buildings 6 through 8 will look like that rendering on the bottom right.
Jeff, you mind going back one for 1 second?
Yeah, absolutely. Whoops, there we go.
Yeah, the first 2 looked identical.
Not this slide, I'm sorry, the slide prior.
Oh, yeah.
Overall site plan.
This one?
Yes, are buildings 1 through 5 on the north parking lot in the back of behind the music tent and behind, or am I confused on?
There is an existing structure there that's proposed to be demolished, but I don't believe that there's parking in that section.
The Sage Minnow today?
Yeah,
So,
it's a good question, Bill. find out what was there. I think
Yeah,
we
definitely.
need to see the site as it is now, and then the site with these landed on them.
I guess I was
Absolutely.
thinking a little bit further east of this, but yes, I
I think
agree
that-
with what Rachel's saying.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for the next reading.
So a plan development reviews details up front and provides more flexibility to the site planning than what underlying zoning allows. PDs are reviewed in two phases, project review and detailed review. These are generally reviewed as separate applications, with project review being the first step. That is the step that we are currently on. So this has been through project review to Planning and Zoning Commission with recommendations to council for the project review approvals. Project review is intended to establish the allowed dimensions of a property and ensure site planning is compatible with the context of the area. Detailed review is intended to perfect and finalize the detailed aspects of the project within the parameters established during the project review. As mentioned previously, this review is simply for the project review criteria at this time. Detailed review will occur later if the proposed project is approved.
And who does the detailed review?
Detailed review would be the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So this review between first and second, whether it's continued or not, it's the only time it'll be in front of council.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and are there details that planning and zoning would theoretically be taking care of that we could address as well and kind of before it gets to them?
I'm not too sure, Ben.
Well, I think that there's a clear demarcation in the code between the review criteria and the kinds of things that project versus detail are considering. And so the big aspects of the project that I think really are at the heart of the request for the flexibility that the plan development can offer or not is part of this project review. When we get to detailed review, we're talking about landscaping, we're talking about lighting, we're talking about those kinds, I wouldn't call them superficial aspects of the project, but they're things that I think are beyond, you know, the transportation requirements, parking requirements, all those kinds of things are set in this project review.
Okay.
Detailed review is relatively cursory and are more.
Down to the
down to
finer details.
Finer details, materials of the building,
Okay,
you know, kind of landscaping plans, that kind of thing.
thank you for that clarification for us and the audience.
Another part of this request is a use variation. A development application may request variations in the allowed uses permitted in the zone district. For this, the burden shall rest upon an applicant to show the reasonableness of the request. The permitted and conditional uses allowed on the property, according to its zoning, shall be used as a guide, but not an absolute limitation to the land uses which may be considered during the review. And any use variation allowed shall be specified in the ordinance granting project review approval. For the growth management quota system review for this project, there are no annual allotment limits for affordable housing or essential public facilities spaces. However, the development must demonstrate compliance with the applicable criteria. Growth management helps ensure an orderly and efficient development pattern and requires that new development quantify and appropriately mitigate for new employee generation. In this instance, the Planning and Zoning Commission will confirm the proposed employee generation in their recommendation. City Council will determine the appropriate mitigation method. An additional part of this request is the grant of certificates of affordable housing credits. Both the Aspen Institute and the Aspen Music Festival and School would like to generate affordable housing credits for their proposals. The Aspen Center for Physics is not requesting the ability to generate affordable housing credits. The Aspen Institute would like to generate 29.75 FTEs of affordable housing credits, while the Aspen Music Festival and School would like to generate 24 FTEs of affordable housing credits. Then for the transportation and parking analysis, the transportation impact analysis guidelines inform applicants on the best strategies to mitigate their peak hour new trips. The TIA guidelines describe this type of project as a minor development inside the roundabout. A minor development would typically require the development mitigate trips using a combination of TDM and MMLOS measures. Both of those,
Can you
yeah.
not use acronym for the
Absolutely,
public?
yes.
Why don't you start those again? Thank you.
yes, yeah, absolutely. So a minor development typically would require the development mitigate trips using a combination of transportation demand management and multimodal level of service measures. And both of those sort of definitions are up on the screen now.
Thank you.
During staff review, there were a few things that staff did not agree with or come to a consensus with the applicant team on. As part of the request for the parking for the Aspen Center for Physics, they requested 17 parking units to be acceptable, utilizing an overage of TIA credits and contemplation of existing improvements not counted by the TIA. Whereas staff,
And the TIA,
transportation impact analysis.
thank you.
Sorry. For the staff recommendation, we recommended that they mitigate for their full 34 parking units, providing either parking spaces, TIA credits, or cash in lieu. All of those three options are allowed by the code. For the Aspen Center for Physics replacement easement, the applicant requested to utilize right-of-way or their preferred alternative on Aspen Center for Physics property. Neither of those options were supported by the city. We would like to see an equal easement and trail on site consistent with what was approved in their 1995 approvals. The applicant also requests 10 years of vested rights, while staff recommends a standard 3-year vested rights. Up on the screen is the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendations that were in their resolution recommending approval to City Council. I'll give everyone a moment to read through these, but essentially they would like for City Council to require the applicant to analyze the traffic impacts along the 4th Street corridor resulting from the reconfiguration of the parking entrance from 3rd to 4th Streets. They would like to see that deed restrictions be updated to include no cars be allowed for the occupants of the new housing units for the Aspen Center for Physics. They recommend that if vesting is granted for greater than 3 years, that City Council require the applicant team to implement conditions that would limit construction timelines and impacts on the neighborhood, and that an employee generation audit for employees associated with the new units as the Physics Center shall be required at the 2nd and 5th years following the certificate of occupancy. Staff recommends that council approve the ordinance on first reading and set a public hearing date to review the application on February 24th, 2026. There's a proposed motion. Obviously, this is a massive project, so I'm assuming that there's going to be a lot of questions, so I'm happy to take any questions and clarifications for second reading. Yeah.
And so we're going to be taking the questions to be answered more formally in a memo. We're not going to be back and forth about the answer. And I just wanted to look at that date on the 24th to February, so you feel that is a Tuesday about a month from now, so there would be time to schedule a site visit in between. And a site visit would be a public thing. The press would be able to come. We would not take comments from any members of the public who would like to travel with us and see and hear what we're seeing and hearing, but it's not a private event. You can certainly come, but it's not a public comment period. Best described.
And we did do a site visit for the Planning and Zoning Commission as well, so I think a majority of people here probably attended that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Who would like to start? John, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to just offer, again, having spent a good 20 years of my life deep in the West End, I'm acutely aware of what happens on Sunday afternoons. In the summertime, people actually parking on our lawn, parking so that we couldn't exit our driveway. So I'm super sensitive to what underparking means for the West End, and that's all I have right now.
Thank you. You have questions?
I have questions, but I know
Sam has a
compilation of questions, and I wonder if we should go through those and then find out which ones are still remaining.
Okay.
That seems
Yeah, I was thinking along
Okay.
those lines. I just saw John's hand up. There you go.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
For the audience, I used ChatGPT to boil down all the comments we received from everyone. So made a list of 24 questions from everyone. So I just, knowing how this is like first reading, I just wanted to ask the questions. Some of them have already been answered. A lot of them are not for staff, but for the applicant. Here's my monologue.
Okay, please.
And I emailed you, Jeffrey, the questions, so don't feel like you need to write them all down.
All right, perfect.
I emailed you and Dan as the applicants from staff.
Okay, great.
So broken down into some categories, thanks to ChatGPT. Zoning, deed restrictions, and precedent. So are these special zoning rules, deed restrictions, or policy precedents that apply to seasonal or institutional housing in areas such as Merle Place and Burlingame non-ranch? Because those were the two I could think of that were seasonal versus short-term more housing. Should these proposals be reviewed as one coordinated project rather than multiple independent applications, given their cumulative impacts on parking, traffic, and neighborhood character? Is it appropriate to allow rezoning or use variations in R6 neighborhood when the proposed density, building mass, and transient occupancy differ substantially from the established single-family context? Affordable housing versus short-term occupancy. If a majority of occupants will stay for periods of 1 to 3 weeks, how does the city distinguish this housing from short-term rental use in practice? What percentage of proposed units will be reserved for year-round employees versus short-term faculty, students, or visiting participants? How does this project advance Aspen's stated goal of increasing housing for permanent local workers rather than transient populations? Vested rights and construction duration. Why is a 10-year vested rights period necessary for this project, and how does it serve the public interest? Given the West End's prolonged exposure to construction impacts over many years, why should vested rights exceed the standard 3-year term? What safeguards are in place to prevent prolonged intermittent construction over a decade-long period? Parking supply, traffic, and enforcement. The Aspen Center for Physics proposal reflects a deficit of approximately 37 parking spaces. How is this compatible with existing parking constraints in the area? Why should cash and lieu payments be considered an adequate mitigation when they do not create parking capacity near the site? How would deed restrictions prohibiting car ownership by occupants be realistically enforced, and how has such enforcement been successful elsewhere in Aspen? Should this project be required to complete a level 1 traffic impact analysis given existing congestion from Aspen Meadows events and commuter traffic on Power Plant Road? Next, public easements, trails, and pedestrian safety. Why is the relocation of existing public trail easement off the Aspen Center for Physics property being proposed? How does relocating pedestrians onto a vehicle-heavy roadway improve safety or preserve the quality of this historic legally recorded public amenity? Are all existing informal and formal walking paths through these properties being preserved, and if not, why? Neighborhood compatibility and operations. Who will manage these housing units on a day-to-day basis, and will there be on-site management to ensure compliance with occupancy, parking, and behavioral rules? How will increased demand for housekeeping, maintenance, and service contractors be accommodated without adding traffic and parking pressure? Are pets allowed in long-term units, and how will impacts to nearby wildlife corridors, ACES, Hallam Lake, and the Roaring Fork River be mitigated? Transportation and mobility commitments. What specific transit amenities will be provided, such as dedicated shuttle service, transit passes, bike infrastructure? Are these measures binding conditions of approval or voluntary program elements subject to change? Last category, construction impacts and mitigation. Will a construction mitigation plan be required at the detailed review stage? What concrete measures will be implemented to reduce construction worker vehicle trips to the site? Was the anticipated total construction duration, and how will noise, dust, traffic, and staging impacts on neighbors be minimized? Those are all 24 questions. So that's it. Like I said, some for staff, some for the applicant, and I thought this was a good way, in a sort of non-biased way, to reflect the comments that we received, and also be able to progress forward with all the questions answered in a very legible way for us and the public to be able to review and potentially come up with more questions or get answers that satisfy us.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
That was good work.
So while I'm going through these, how would you guys like these answered below each question, or I guess, what's the preferred method that you would prefer to?
I would love them answered below each question, because then I can just reflect back to this. And then also, on a personal level, I would potentially go back to the people in the audience and others that we'd receive comments from, being like, does this satisfy you? What other questions does this bring up? Because as much as I have reviewed this packet personally, I'm also very much relying on the standards set by the city, but also the impacts on the neighbors, because that's obviously very important to getting answered.
Great. Thank you for that, Sam.
Yes.
Other comments or questions now? Do you have any few that Sam didn't cover yet? That AI didn't give him?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, these are from the public and then synthesized.
Yeah, credit where credit's due.
I do have a few extra
Please.
ones, a little bit more specific. In the packet, I think it falls under the academic use as a boarding house or dormitory style unit. In this unit of parcels, how much housing could be built under that classification if it was categorized as a boarding house or dormitory?
And that will be answered at the next meeting.
Yes.
Just for clarity, well, it's a little bit difficult because this has already got a plan development on it. And so there's already, other non-residential development. And so there's not a lot of dimension set for those sizes within the underlying zone district of academic zone for that particular type of use. And so it relies on the creation of a plan development to set those dimensions. And so there's not an underlying zoning definition that gives us definition to the height, mass, scale, intensity, density that would be allowed on that particular zone district for that particular use. And so I think it's really the essential quality, and I'm not trying to skirt the answer because I think it's a fundamental question for staff and for neighbors, and I think for the organizations as they were thinking about designing these projects. But it's really the job of the PD review criteria to decide or to give some guidance about what would be appropriate. And it's a fully subjective thing because there's not an underlying description of the dimensions that could be allowed for the, on the academic use for those particular types of structures.
Okay, that's helpful, actually, so thanks.
In its own way.
Yeah. This was a little sort of addressed, but what would it look like if these three applications were submitted separately? We don't have to answer that right now, but how does that change everything? The ACP, the Aspen Center for Physics units are not built to APCHA code living standards, correct? Does not building up to APCHA living standards potentially cause future problems for housing if the ownership of those units changes, something like that in the future?
Repeat that last bit?
Yeah, if potentially the ownership of those units changed in the future and they're not built to APCHA living standards, I don't want to speculate on what could happen, but if they're not,
Could they become single-family free market? Is that what?
that or APCHA can't, for some reason, can't put them into their own inventory because they don't meet their living standards.
Okay.
And then I do have questions that probably are more for the applicants. I'll probably save those for.
No, it's
okay.
fair to ask them now, and then the applicants can be prepared to answer.
Okay.
Here as well, so
Yeah.
they can take notes on these too.
Okay. For the Aspen Center for Physics units, has any partnership been considered with someone like SkiCo for a seasonal housing partnership, sort of like Marolt housing, where some of the concerns that we've heard from neighbors are these are only being used in the summer, and we're building housing that's not used year-round, and it's not meeting the goal of the intention of the program. So what does it look like to find people to live in those for the rest of the year? How's that been looked at? And let's see. we are seeing in or some of the information in the packet talked a lot about the traffic and parking impacts for people coming in and to these units, but I didn't see a lot of information on the traffic and parking trips it would actually save from people living on site. I know that's kind of an unspoken part of this, but I would like to see numbers on that. You know, where were these people living previously? And what are we actually potentially saving by housing them on site? I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bill, do you have comments or questions?
Yes,
to add
please.
in?
Let me just finish this one done, sorry.
Okay.
It's related to this.
I can go ahead and go if you're.
No, I'm ready now,
Okay.
but you're welcome to go first if you prefer. Whenever
No,
you want.
go ahead.
Okay. It'd be helpful for me to understand the net parking changes proposed. And I don't just mean within the boundaries of the project, but also those in the right-of-ways. And I'd like to see that both on a parcel-by-parcel basis and a combined total, please. Some of my questions here are going to be somewhat philosophical, and I think that's intentional. And so there's not really a black and white code answer to some of these, but it's food for thought for me and others, and I'm interested to see how the applicant responds. This one being the most philosophical of them is this really APCHA housing? And if not, should this application be reworked and proposed as seasonal housing akin to Burlingame, what do you call it, non-ranch? Non-ranch and Merolds. And would this change the way it's proposed and reviewed? I'm not opposed to it being proposed as that specific use, but I do think it's a distinct use from what I think it's being proposed as, which is sort of traditional APCHA housing. So I'm very curious to see how the applicant responds to that. And I think that deserves a fairly lengthy, well-thought-out response. And a lot of the way that I can provide feedback on this sort of hinges on how I feel about that, I think. A bit of a tag-along, affordable housing mitigation credits. Why should we be convinced that these units and this specific use of the units warrant the award of affordable housing credits? And I think lastly, for now, can you please explain your strategy in applying for what seems to me to be 3 fairly distinct projects as one? I've discussed this with Kate. We don't think that there's a legal reason why you can't combine them as an application. I think that's why it's made it this far. And that made sense to me, but it's a strategic decision to apply for them as one, and I'd like to understand the applicant's perspective on that strategy.
Okay.
I think, and Sam, thank you for
Covering a lot of
synthesizing
ground.
and covering so much ground, and I know it's a lot, but I think there's so much great public feedback and constructive criticism that we've received that Sam was able to summarize for us. Thanks.
Thank you. Very good. Let's see, I'm not sure these are in a particular order, but I am also very concerned with the housing credits request. I'm not very likely to want to grant that. I was actually first on council in 1991, and the whole Meadows Master Plan had pretty much been completed under Bill Sterling as mayor, and John Bennett was coming in. And so it was pretty much a done deal, and we just signed off on it. But that master plan did identify the 3 different uses on the property as one property and as one campus. And so I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be individual projects, or that we shouldn't look at them as individual projects, but I think they were looking at this as a totality situation, and rather than one coming up now and then the next one coming in the door a year later, another door later, they wanted to see the totality of the impacts. But that's just my thinking. But back again to 1991, this was granted as a public facility, public uses, and so there was no housing required. And back in that time, in 91, I guess the Meadows and everybody there thought, well, that's fine, that's okay, that's great. But now they're saying we need housing. And if they need housing, then good, build the housing, thank God. I'm really appreciative of that thought. But on the other hand, housing credits so that there's really no net gain, that somebody else can build a new hotel and buy credit for 60 some odd, or about 54, 53 employees that should be housed will not be housed because the Meadows was able to have these credits. And I just don't see it working. I mean, this is something that entity needs. It's not a private developer who went out and found a single family lot, and they need these housing credits to make a private sector affordable housing project go. And I think, I hate to say it, but these agencies, some better than others, have really significant endowments, and they have significant supporters and significant donors. And I just can't see saying that the housing crisis of Aspen has to get worse and other people can build without doing housing because we're selling credits to these organizations. It's simply not fair. I am very concerned with the parking and the access routes. It seems that was a secondary thought to where we can put all the units and where can we realign the parking lot, as opposed to what it will do to the rest of the West End traffic issues. And I personally, I'd love to see this project pursue underground parking. That's a huge site for underground parking. And to only have the number of spaces that is there now is creating and has created a huge mess in that neighborhood. And so to request that we somehow make that worse on a Sunday afternoon, or when these large week-long events or 2-week-long events are ongoing and there's multiple events. I mean, it's an odd thing to say, but as we're all looking at the traffic jam leaving town and that transportation problem, that we're not going to acknowledge that we have needs for additional car storage and parking in this area. It can't be all on the neighbor's front lawns and grasses and things like this. But it's about embracing the future and being real about it. I understand underground parking would be highly expensive. Maybe it's not all the cars, but to say we're going to have the exact same number that's been underserving this community and this neighborhood for the events that we're having, I know I was going to say, is that it's become apparent too that we have the traffic trying to leave town and the roundabout charge, and all the events kind of start at the same time to bring people in at the exact same point. And so that's kind of doubled or tripled the impact of the traffic problems because of this event starting at 4:30, this event starting at 5, this event starting at 6, and just the timing of bringing the people in is challenging. I will need to know exactly how the housing units and which units are being used. I can't have this flexible mix that 1 week it might be a speaker and the next week it might be a paid participant and the next week maybe we'll have a speaker again. And that's not housing in my mind. That is, and through some of the letters people have put it out there, this is a form of a short-term rental or this is a form of a hotel. And it does feel like a hotel. And it doesn't feel like housing. If anything was APCHA housing, they'd have a 6-month minimum lease requirement for all rentals. And I don't see that as being part of this package. And I want to say if we're going to call them housing, it's housing. It plays by the rules. If it's a need for, we have GMQS allotments available for housing, for hotel beds, and some of this sounds a lot more like a hotel. And it's hard to look at that when you know there is an existing Meadows Hotel. And why isn't any of that being used to house those speakers or those guests? If we need more, then it's more hotel rooms. It's not a guise of affordable housing. I'd like to know, I have to know exactly what each unit will really be housing. But maybe nonprofit participant speaker housing is a new category we need in our code. But I mean, other agencies are feeling the same pain. The Wheeler Opera House has a hard time bringing in performers when it's hard to lodge them in town. I've heard people telling me that Food and Wine might go away one day because all the wine producers are finding it too expensive to bring their crews in and put them up in Aspen hotels for the week event. And so, some of these are the end point and problems of our own creation in terms of the cost. So the housing uses have to be completely defined, and I do need to see both the kind of the better trail and access. Putting a trail out on the public street is not a trail. There's been a few places where we had to do that when the Roaring Fork River Trail got cut off by condominiums in the water line, and we've rerouted it through some of the neighborhood streets of the East End and then back to the river. But this is a blank slate. This doesn't have a high tide river where you can't route it the way it should be routed. So I realize that what you're hearing from council as a whole, and Sam, I totally endorse the questions you've asked through this method. It really requires a lot of rethinking, I think, to become a project that would be acceptable to the West End neighborhood and to our community as a whole. And I only say that with greatest respect possible for the Aspen Institute, for the MAA, and for the Physics Center. And I think that at the end of the day, we do have to have a little give from the neighborhood in some ways. But where we're at right now is well too much of an ask, in my mind. But those organizations have made the West End, in many ways, far more than just the Victorian natures of the houses. And they are important and beneficial to all of the Aspen community. And, I personally can only thank them for programs that have included Aspen youth and other students throughout the valley and the community in a reasonably affordable fashion for many of the events. And so I think that as much as you're hearing the type of comments many developers in our community end up hearing, it's not out of disrespect for you. It is that we want to get it right. We want to get the community right. And everyone in the room should know, something that I will often tell other developers or people. Every single ordinance we pass at the table is subject to citizen referendum. And it does not take many signatures to suddenly have a big ballot issue and a big ballot battle. And I don't think that's where the community wants to end up. I don't think that's where the West End wants to end up. I don't think that's where the nonprofits want to end up. And so maybe taking a few steps back and scaling back and really kind of answering these questions from the outside in rather than from the inside out will bring us to a better place. And I'll just leave it at that, but further comments from anyone else are certainly welcome. John.
I wanted to add on to your comments. Again, we have rented to physicists. We have rented to musicians that perform for the music festival in school, and they are really great renters because they go to bed early, they don't party, they do their physics, they practice their instruments. There are fewer places in the West End that are renting to physicists or musicians. I used to hear musicians all the time when I first moved into the West End practicing on every block, and now I don't hear that anymore.
Yeah.
And that was part of the packet, why the Physics Institute is seeking more housing locally is because now they can only find people in Snowmass Village to rent to, which means the physicists do have to rent a car. Now, for anybody that knows me, knows that I'm very pro-housing. And I also would really like to limit parking as much as possible. Would love to reduce the parking ratios for this project, but I think that flies in direct opposition to what the West End is facing right now. I already touched on the parking issues that are faced on Sunday afternoons and evenings. That's just the worst of it. It happens almost every day in the summertime. It's just the worst on Sunday. I agree with Christine. I want to see these units be occupied year-round if we're going to build them. That's all I have for tonight. I look forward to second reading.
Thank you.
Any other closing comments or
Yeah,
thoughts?
I would like to say thanks to the community, the neighbors, for all of your thoughtful emails and considerations, and thank you to the applicants as well. As Rachel alluded to, when you were founded decades ago, you did not know you were going to be in the housing game, and yet here we are. And I think we should be supporting organizations who are investing in their employees and building housing for their organizations. It's our job as the council, the community, and the staff to make sure this project improves and gets better and balances the needs and the concerns of the neighborhood, and also helps the organizations achieve the goals they are trying to. And I think, and I'm hopeful we can get there.
Thank you. Sam?
Amen, and I'll make a motion to read ordinance number 5 on first reading.
Thank you, Sam. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Nicole?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes, thank you.
Ordinance number 5, series of 2026, an ordinance of the Aspen City Council approving conditions, a major planned development project review amendment, use variation, growth management review, certificates of affordable housing credit, residential design standards review, parking and transportation review, vested rights review adjustment for lots 1A, 2, and 3, the Aspen Meadows subdivision according to the Aspen Meadows final SPA development plan and final subdivision plat recorded January 24th, 1992, and plat book 28 at page 5, full legal descriptions found in Exhibit A, County of Pitkin, State of Colorado.
Thank you. Before we have the next vote, that really reminded me of a couple of things which were brought up as questions, and one is the vested rights. I tend to agree with staff's recommendation that we stick with our existing policy on that, and the only times I've ever seen through the county and maybe the city it was a real extended vested right was when there was a huge community benefit offered. You know, just something that would be monumental in amount of the time it would take and monumental in terms of community benefit. And this doesn't seem to have that. And the concerns of an extended 10-plus year construction period, I think it's reasonably scary for a lot of people. You know, once you've gotten you wait to the 2 years and 11 months and you file for your demo permit, and then you got a year after that to file for your excavation permit, and then a year after that, and that's not what is fair to the neighborhood. And then the other item which you just mentioned was construction management plan that goes along with that. Now, I know that that's done somewhat after the fact, and we have talked in transportation and some of these other areas at the table about can we get a more vigorous construction management plan in that more employees have to park and who don't have the tool trucks and the stuff at the Brush Creek Intercept lot and carpool in with others. But, you know, where all the workmen park, how do they get to the site, how the site is kept bear-proof with no lunch boxes in the construction debris piles, things like that is going to be a really important element for the big plan. Is there a motion to approve on first reading and move to second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Nicole, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you all who have attended. Thank you for all of our staff who have put in some really hard work trying to understand this and simplify it in its presentation to us and others. And thank you for the neighbors, as Christine said, who have really gone over this with a fine-tooth comb and assisted us with their concerns. Thank you. I think, what do we have left on the agenda? Just the strategic plan. We'll give you all a few minutes to leave and then pick up from there.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Hi.
Thank you.
Not next time. The time after.
We are
Thank you.
ready when you are. Good evening, Council. My name is John
Why
Barker.
didn't everybody stay for John?
Yeah, right? We're used to it. My name is John Barker. I'm the Director of the Strategy and Innovation Office, and I'm joined tonight by Robin Sturgeon, our Senior Strategy Consultant, and we are very excited to walk you through the city's draft first ever strategic plan.
Very good.
All right, so, quick agenda for tonight, and feel free to jump in with questions at any time. We're going to go over why we need one, a quick overview of the bones of it, an implementation plan, right? How are we going to turn this into action? The development approach, like what tools and what information did we use to develop this plan? Quick overview of the details of the plan, and then some next steps for council.
Great.
Right. So the primary thing that we're really excited about with our strategic plan, right, is that our staff does such an excellent job of responding to community priorities and council direction by creating independent plans, right? So things like the Aspen Sustainability Action Plan or departmental strategic plans. And we realize that when you add all those up, right, it becomes hard to understand and prioritize all the good work that we're doing here at the city. And so when Pete took over as interim city manager, he asked us to start to look, can we create a single document that puts all this together into one place so it's easy for the community, for you all as council, and for us as staff to understand what's most important. Also, to be able to better communicate that, right? To have one place for our community to be able to come and see what's most important to the city so that we can communicate better and are also, importantly, much more transparent about the work we're doing. Of course, we want to be able to prioritize, right? And so if we have a lot of different tools that we're using to prioritize, it becomes hard to know which one's more important than that one, right? So try to create one that has our most important work, and we'll get into it, absolutely not all the work we're doing. Also, right, being able to align our work as an organization, our priorities as staff and departments to what we hear from council and our community as what's most important. And then lastly, but really importantly, start to introduce performance measurement so that we can understand, are the actions that we're trying to take having the impact that we hope, or should we try something different? All right, so one key component of this, as we looked at, of course, we looked at other municipality strategic plans to see sort of what made sense for Aspen. And the most compelling thing for us as a team was to write this in a way that was easy to understand for as many people as possible, right? For our subject matter experts, for our technical people, we have other plans. We have areas in which they can go and find that information. But what we felt was really missing was this approachable introduction to what the city was focused on. So you'll see throughout the plan, right, we're trying to use plain language. We're using narratives instead of lists of things so that people can connect with this work and understand it. Of course, we're also trying to keep it really tight. So, there's lots of examples of plans that we've made here as a city or that other cities have made, right, that are tomes, and that is great because it provides a lot of detail. It also becomes really hard to update. It becomes really hard to use as an actual tool in our day-to-day work. And so we kept it really tight so that it's useful over time.
Can you ask them to move away from the door for the conversation? It's a little distracting. Thank you. Sorry, John.
Of course. So the other thing that you'll notice, right, on the transparency front is we are trying to offer our community the opportunity to look at these objectives with questions that they can answer in a simple yes or no format to find out if we're succeeding. And then, really importantly, right, this is not a new work generator, right? This is a collection of work that was almost all already planned or underway, responsive to council priorities. All right, so the implementation, right? So it's fine to have a pretty document, right? But the devil's in the details about how we're actually going to operationalize this. And this is what we're really trying to show for council is we've heard your priorities and this is our plan to put them into action. So there's a few key elements here. The first is restructuring the way in which we prioritize work as an internal organization to focus on collaboration, right? So that the hope here is that projects don't just have one departmental owner, right? That we have multiple departments working on these big community priorities and we're collaborating together, working together to deliver. And we are in the process of revamping our internal work planning program called Compass to better facilitate this. So a big change that we're rolling out right now is a shift from departmental goals, right, where departments selected their own goals and their own priorities, right, to a top-down model, right, where we have 7 shared goals as a city that we're all working on together. So moving from 70 plus wide goals down to 7. And then long-term plans, which we're not ready to roll out yet, but we hope, in the coming months, once it's tested internally, right, is it the tools we are using to measure our progress, right, can be public-facing, and we hope to make them public-facing once we've tested the product internally. So anyone who would like to know can go on our website, click on the strategic plan, and see the latest updates on all of our city priorities. All right, so what's in it? First and foremost, right, with everything we do here at the city, it's rooted in our mission, which you are all familiar with, and our values, which you are all familiar with. Importantly, right, this is a foundational document to the strategic plan as well. And you all set your goals and guiding principles, I believe it was in April or May of last year, right? And we have taken this document and shared it with all 25 of our departments and said, what do you have underway that's going to make a positive impact on council's priority projects, council goals, and guiding principles? And that conversation formed the core of these 6 strategic objectives that you see here in the plan, 4 of which are pretty much a direct response to your priority projects and goals, right? So critical public projects incorporates the lumberyard, the armory, and the entrance to Aspen. The other 3 of your goals, right, are directly reflected here. 2 are a little bit softer, right, and are reflective of how the city is going to take action to make a positive impact on your guiding principles. So we have two objectives here, which we're calling exceptional experiences and services, which is really about ensuring that the city has the great customer service and excellent experiences that we're known for. And then organizational excellence, which is really about internal changes that we're making as an organization to better deliver on the other 5 objectives. So quick overview of the structure. So I want to reiterate again, right, that we start with a narrative for all of the big objectives and the priority initiatives within that, so that we're using plain language to talk about what we're really trying to accomplish and why before digging into details. 2 other items I want to highlight from this are the key outcomes we're tracking. So these are these simple yes or no questions that we're putting out to you all and the community to help us understand if we're succeeding. And these are big objectives, right, that maybe the city can't, with our policies, can't directly control, but we can influence them. And then we have these what success looks like, and these are projects, right, that the city can more directly control that we hope will influence these key outcomes. All right, so any questions about sort of the bones and the structure before we dig into an overview of each objective?
I don't have any. Does anybody? Yeah, we do have an executive session tonight, so let's try to be a little bit brief. I think everyone's read this in their packets before.
All right, so just a few things I want to highlight. We can go quickly through here. This is critical public projects. You are all quite familiar with this. I think I want to highlight some of the key outcomes for the rest of these objectives, right? Because these are the core things that the city is trying to do to deliver on your priorities, right? So these questions that we are putting out to you all and to the community to help us be quite clear about what does this objective mean, right? It means, is childcare affordable for all working families? It means our children and teachers thriving, right? And these are questions that we can use, we can ask in surveys, we can ask in our upcoming Aspen Community Survey if we want to help us understand our performance here. And then, quickly give you an example of sort of what success looks like, right? So these key outcomes are the things we're trying to influence, but something that we can truly control, right, is creating a permanent teacher wage enhancement program to make sure we have quality teachers. And I don't need to make any particular comments on the rest of these, but I just wanted to introduce that structure for you all.
Yeah. And you had used the word draft, but we're passing this tonight, so then it would become formal.
Correct,
Is that
yeah.
correct?
So it is draft until a few minutes from now, hopefully.
Okay, and I would just like to congratulate Pete and the staff and everyone for deciding to do this and putting it together. And it really is a compilation of what we've been talking about as a group pretty solidly. And as I've mentioned before, we will be having at least most of a day retreat, this board to really kind of hone in on the rest of 2026 and various projects. So I think that if there were any real additions or minor tweaks that people saw and wanted to discuss, we could really bring them up there. If there's anything major, we can go ahead and throw it out now. But I just really would like to say this has been great work. And at the mayor's conference, the mayor's summit down in Denver at CML, one of the first speakers they had was ex-military and then consultant and served in public office. And I think his quote was, "The strategic plan is your vision." You have to have one. And he was telling all these groups who did not have a strategic plan, because they just kind of waddle along and boards change, and it was just important to have it down in paper and be able to focus both ourselves on council and our staff on those things. So it was really stressed. I'll see if I can find some of the other good quotes about strategic plan to pass along.
Thanks.
Yeah, comments, Bill?
Yes, agree with everything Rachel just said, and I'm hopeful and optimistic that this sort of gives a little turbocharging and boost to some of the efforts that we've all agreed to pursue. One is more of a question: does it matter to us that some of these success markers have already been achieved in part or in whole? Does that matter that they're sort of already accomplished and in the past. I don't know if it does or doesn't, but
I think
some have.
Yeah, the intent of this document was really trying to capture the adoption of some of the council goals since day one on May of 2025. And so you're right that we've actually progressed some of these already. It doesn't mean that we're going to not continue and they're not a full and complete list of success and how to measure success, but.
Great. I'm fine leaving them as is.
Okay.
And the other one, and by the way, Pete, you did provide all of us an opportunity to weigh in on this, and I did provide some feedback, and I'm sorry I didn't catch this one earlier, but on Strategic Objective 5, exceptional experiences and services, I'm not sure that this fully captures the notion of providing exceptional services across the board. I think I definitely agree with everything that's indicated in the priority initiatives, but I'm not sure in the title it does capture the notion, but in the priority initiatives it doesn't, to me. Talking about, everything from snow removal to, long-range planning efforts to future recreation initiatives, like excellence and exceptionalism in those efforts. I'm not sure that notion, to me, is fully captured there.
Well, are you okay passing it tonight and then continuing to refine it
Yeah,
and
I am,
amend it?
as long as that gets sort of marked down as something to follow up on.
Yeah, okay, very good. Other board comments? John?
Yeah, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate the detail that went into the resource and infrastructure resilience, specifically water and fire resilience. I also want to comment on the photos you used throughout this. They were, I think it reflects the city, and it shows some joy. I thought they were great photos. Thanks.
Thank you. Sam?
Yeah, I'll just say real quick, I thought this was very good, very all-encompassing, very appreciative of it. The only thing I mentioned to Pete when he emailed me was the mention of the word affordability, just because it's a nationwide, but also a very local issue. And as Pete reminded me, and as I'll remind others, so many of the things, affordability is incorporated into these things, such as the Armory Food Hall, at least as a guiding principle that at least I think of consistently.
Yeah.
in a plan.
I think you're right, and John kind of captured it when he said in his early slides, there's some things we might be able to influence, but we don't control.
Yeah,
and we'll do our best with those. But that is certainly the issue. Any other comments? Christine?
Just thank you this being my first year of setting goals as a council member. It's really nice to see it consolidated and summarized and see what we're doing and what we still need to do. So I appreciate it, and I hope the public does too.
Thanks.
And I'll just give the same compliments to you and all the rest of the staff members who you had help you put it together, and to Pete. And we're starting to see a little bit of his management style come through, and we appreciate that. It's a good thing. So
Truly all 25 work groups that we have here, right? What we did was talk and ask, what's going on, but it really was a fun research project, getting to understand the plans and the priorities of how every single department is responding to you all's goals and guiding principles, and it was really rewarding to go out and have those talks to turn all that energy into a single document.
that's great. That's great. I think it is wonderful work and very professional. Again, having the age around the city hall, I've seen it go from certain levels of non-professionalism to constantly improving in the city hall with all the talented staff we have and the leadership. So thank you. Thank you very much. Do we need a motion then to pass this?
I'll make a motion to pass Resolution 16, Series of 2026.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Nicole, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much. And we do have an executive session scheduled, so I will let our attorney go into the citations and information on that. We will not hold that executive session in this room so that Grassroots TV can come home, and we do not make decisions in executive session. We may give direction to staff of what to continue to pursue. So if you would like to, Kate, give the citations for this meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff is requesting an executive
Thank you. Good
session
night.
this evening pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes, Section 24-6-402, subsection 4, subsection B, conferences with an attorney for the local public body for purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions, and subsection 4, subsection E, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. The specific item of discussion is litigation the city is currently involved in, and that is titled Pauline M. Mayer Family Partnership LLP v. City of Aspen. It's Pickens County case number 23CV30094. As you mentioned, I think the idea would be that we adjourn both executive session and the regular meeting downstairs in Electric Pass. A copy of this recording will be maintained by the clerk's office for not less than 90 days, and no decisions will be made in executive session.
Thank you very much for that. Is there a motion to go into executive session based on our attorney's citations?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right. I'll give the tie to Christine this time. And then Nicole, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Benedetti?
Yes.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Grassroots TV, and our viewing audience. We appreciate you following us and giving us your input.